The number one way to show them how to be an owner in their mind is to be an example that I'm an owner in my mind. There's nothing I would never ask someone to do that I haven't done or can do. Now, I can't do it proficiently and I can't do it efficiently, and I would never want to do it permanently, but I can do it. And I show them what you get if you do it with gusto, with ownership, with the heart of an owner. You're going to get where I am.
Today's guest is Jeremy Torisk, a leadership coach, consultant, and speaker who helps solopreneurs start and grow businesses through his company, Torisk Pro Advisors. Jeremy is a serial entrepreneur himself, as well as an author whose book, Labor to Leadership, discusses the power of a driven mindset and illustrates how important it is to understand how all aspects and elements of a business are important and impact the business.
Welcome to the EcomXFactor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of EcomXFactor, Yaron Bin.
Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
Wonderful. Great to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to this call, and I love your background, by the way. It's very well lit and nice design.
Appreciate it. We put a little bit of effort into it. We always want to improve, but it's always something in motion in action. So
before we dive into the talk, and we're going to discuss a lot of interesting topics, can you share a bit about your background? And I also see that you have your book in the background. So if you can also share a bit about the book.
Sure. So really, if I tell you about the book, it'll tell you about my background. During COVID-19 shutdown, I was kind of sequestered. I was lucky enough to we have a few businesses. Two of them did not really slow down. One is the landscaping business. The grass still grows in South Florida and it's outside so people can work. And the other one is telecommunication construction. It's what I've done since I was about 20 years old. The book is called My Journey from Pit Digger to CEO. While I was not slowed down with my company, personally, I travel the country. I have offices all over the country and I open offices, I mentor people, I do some sales, and I'm the executive vice president of this company. So that was shut down. So I had to switch gears and go to a virtual type of travel, which left me a lot of time on my hands. And so my family had a meeting one day about 30 days into it and said, we don't work for you. You stop telling us what to do. You got to find a hobby, because I just couldn't do the home thing all the time. So I had a very interesting childhood. I was born to very young and damaged people who had a lot of hard times growing up in their lives and had us very young. My sister, by the time she was 18, and myself, by the time they were 20, and never grew up. My parents were kids. So I had a lot to write. I had a lot in myself. And I took the time during this shutdown to just write down for cathartic reasons, but also to kind of acknowledge the past, but appreciate the present. Because even though the world was upside down during that time, I still had so much going for me. I've been through so many hard times. And as I was writing it, I started going, I bet other people have been through something like this. Not exactly the same thing, but hard times. And I started seeing a pattern, fail and blame others, and fail, blame others. And then I'm writing and then fail and accept the failure. And I got a little better, and then fail and ask for help, right? Accept it and ask for help. And then it took off. My success went from, sometimes to more than likely I was going to succeed. Failing actually caused my success to go up when I accepted it and I asked for help, admitted that I needed help. And that's when I was like, this might be a book. Okay. I work with junior achievement kids in high school who are looking to start small businesses. And I was dyslexic growing up. I had ADHD, dyslexia, OCD, you name it, I have it if it's between the ears. And so the book is really easy to read because I wrote it very easy to read because I have a hard time reading. I have a real hard time with it, even still. My mind just goes so fast. So the book is very easy to read. The first part of it is about my life. The second part is about business. And how the elements, and the whole second half is called the teaching, and it's not called chapters, they're called elements. There's a motivational element or a networking, time management, sales, marketing, HR elements, time management elements. So how do they work with each other, and how I got in trouble in the past, and how did I find out? What did I learn? I gave you the resources of what I saw and what worked for me. So it's a really cool little book. very easy read. And that kind of gives you the past, like really damaged to a mind shift. We can get into that in a little bit here, but there was a mind shift at 20 years old that set me off on the trajectory that I'm still climbing. It's amazing.
Can you share a bit about, do like a deep dive into the elements, some of the elements at least?
Sure. So basically what I do is I go and here's how I thought of it. Every time I started a business or I worked for a corporation, I was always thinking about myself, my job, my part of the puzzle. And I never really thought about how what I did affected the other departments. So in effect, when I do that, I'm setting up the other departments for failure more times than not. When I'm selfish about how much time I hold a job or how much I'm charging or how I treat a customer, it affects the other parts of the company. Now, if you're a solopreneur, like I am for some of my business, or an entrepreneur, part of a very large business, or an intrapreneur, which means that you work for a corporation, but you treat it like you're a CEO. You have many people in other departments. And when you're selfish like that, and it's not because I'm a selfish person, I just didn't understand. So I started breaking down the other departments. And when you understand how what you do for your job function affects the next person down, and the next person down, the domino effect you have, you start doing things selflessly and setting them up for success. Just by thinking, oh, we're all part of marketing, right? How hard is it to get a customer? It's the hardest thing. And I'm here at a customer's house when I was an installer with a chip on my shoulder because I'm hot, tired, and they want me to move a dresser and I'm being rude. We probably spent $250 finding the customer, and I'm here saying, being a jerk. But I understood that it kind of changed my perspective on everything you do reflects on the company as a whole. And the company is a life. The elements are, like I said, HR, human resources, right? Other than time, people are the most precious valuable resource. So what do you do when you open a company? You can't pay somebody right away a bunch of money. So you got to give them other perks and treating them, humanely and kindly and generously, maybe mentoring them, giving them more responsibility. That kind of thing is important because it's got a value. There's a song called Wasting Away in Margaritaville by Jimmy Buffett. I call it Wasting Away in Operatorsville, because when you're an operator and you do your job, let's say I'm a carpenter and I leave the carpenter shop and open up my own carpenter business, man, I'm the best guy. I make a table in 2 days and it's beautiful. Well, now I got to go be a marketer. I got to be an HR manager and find people, recruit people. I got to be a salesperson, find people. I got to be an internet IT specialist and get my internet working. I got to be a billing accountant, right? Well, where's the time now to build the tables? So I hire someone for that. And so now I'm operating. I hire a guy and he takes 8 days to build a table and it's bad. So I'm like, I get frustrated because I could just do it myself, right? Why am I paying somebody? And so it goes through all this, how to hire somebody. You don't want to hire a good carpenter or a bad carpenter and train them. You want to hire somebody who can learn, who's open to learning. So there's things about what you watch to figure out how to interview and all this kind of things. It's kind of going through those chapters and elements.
It's an important topic and it's very challenging in my opinion, because for me, I have like a cycle. I hire people, then I'm not willing to invest a lot of money up front. So I try to teach them. And a lot of times I get frustrated and then I'm saying, okay, I'm just going to automate everything. So I fire a lot of people, try to automate everything. And after a while I say, okay, I can't automate everything. It's too hard. I need good people. So I hire a bit better people, a bit more expensive, but then it's the cycle just continues. So
yes.
How do you know when to invest in the person? And when do you say, okay, I've invested enough, maybe it's not the right fit?
That is a fluid question because it depends on what the person is doing wrong. Okay. If they're trying, but they just don't get it, a different type of training. So there's a DISC test, right? DISC, it's an assessment test. And it tells you about how they learn. And so you have them take the DISC assessment, then you learn how to read the DISC assessment, then you learn how to train them using their language instead of your language. So sometimes it's just a matter of figuring out how they need to be talked to or trained. If it's a matter of they like to punch out at 5 and they're going to punch in 2 minutes early and punch out 1 minute before they leave, well, that's a drive problem. Okay. And you can't teach drive. You can't use that's intangible. So that kind of person, I gotta leave on time. I got something really important. No, what's important? Me and my cousin are going to skateboard park. Well, we're up on a deadline. If you weren't so slow, we wouldn't even be on the deadline. So if that kind of person, you kind of get rid of quicker. So, and that goes back to hiring. There's a book called How to Create Extraordinary Employees. And the trick to that is finding out the person's strength and then capitalizing on it. Don't worry about increasing their weaknesses. Take their strengths and make them extraordinary at it. Put them in the right position. And then so you have these people and they all have these different strengths. They don't need to be good at everything. Just find out what they're really best at and increase that knowledge for your business. So that's another way that you could do it. Replacing somebody is very expensive. I have fired my share of people, but I have let them go longer. I'm guilty of that too.
I was in a lecture, and one of the guys, CEO of a big company, he told us that he was asked by a VC, by his VCs, when do you fire your employees? So he had no good answer. And then the VC told him, the first moment that you're thinking about firing, you should fire the guy. On one hand, this is like chopping heads, but on the other hand, this might be kind of the right way to go. I'm not sure. I'm still debating.
It's black and white, and business isn't black and white, and people aren't black and white as far as their dealings. I will say it should never be a surprise to them. I will say if you're going to fire somebody, you should have 2 or 3 coaching and counseling sessions with them, have a written plan for their improvement, and then when you go to fire them, it shouldn't be a surprise. That's on you. If you just go, look, I just got to get away with all this, I'm going to fire me. You should have told them. Maybe you didn't tell them how important it is to be there 10 minutes early, be working right when the clock starts, and how you would feel if somebody put in a little more effort. Maybe they have a health problem with a sick parent. It's not a skate park, but it's a legitimate thing. So you can adjust their schedule, and now their attitude's better. Yeah. So it's not black and white, and I wouldn't suggest doing with that way. However, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Malley, he suggests too, when you think it's time, it's probably time.
Yeah. I really agree with what you said regarding the fact that everyone should understand that they are part of the team. And sometimes employees are getting incentives that they are counterproductive to the company. So let's say the salesperson, he just wants to nail the sales, but he might be saying false claims and stuff that is going to harm the company in the shorter term. So how do you normally incentivize your people?
Well, to that point, I know, since you brought up sales, there's a part in there, about sales, the sales element. And one thing that I would say a lot of people who aren't good at sales tend to do is to sell on a cancellation policy. Don't worry about it. If you don't like it, you can cancel in 30 days. Well, you're not doing the company any favors. All right.
Exactly.
So you got to KYN, right? Know your numbers. So when your salespeople, how many calls are they taking? How many answers are they taking or making? How many pitches are they making? How long are those pitches? What's their conversion rate? And then how many of those sales turn to cancellations? If you examine that, then you can start molding their strengths, because you can say, you make 1,000 phone calls a week. The second place guy makes 400 phone calls a week, but he makes 100 sales. He's got a 25% close rate. You make 50 sales. You got a 5% close rate. It's not your effort. Let's figure out what's going on when they answer. And then you listen to the calls, and then you role play with them. Maybe you let them listen and shadow the guy who makes 25%, but makes less calls because he's talking so long. So you've got to know your numbers, and you've got to be working on your business all the time. I love these people that said, I have passive income. It ain't passive. You got to do something or else it's going to go away. Their marketing, even if it's automated, things change. People don't respond the same way. Things get stale. The message gets stale. The offers need to change. So you got to stay in your business, know your numbers.
We spoke a lot about HR. So can you share a bit about the other elements from the book?
Sure. I guess we talked about sales a little bit. Thick skin, right? No doesn't necessarily mean no. It means not yet. One of the best things about sales, and sales is always top of everybody's mind, sales and marketing, and the people that combine them, So they're two different things. And the important thing with sales is if you brand yourself and you become a thought leader of your field, you're never going to have to sell anything. People will call you and ask you questions, and then you'll be able to help people. The word sales comes from the Latin to serve. And so if you just serve people, if you are a shepherd of information, if you're the guy who knows the most, the SME, the subject matter expert, right,
Nice.
of your backyard, you just share that information, especially if it's a great product, especially if it helps people. People will always be looking for a deal. They'll always be looking for the way to get the cheapest. That's not what you're going to do. If you just help people get the best product, and then that folds into the service, which is customer service. So marketing is how you get the customer. Sales is how you sell them, turn the marketing into customers. Then customer service is where you keep the customer, turning them into fans, right? When people call you with a problem, you accept it, you empathize, you do whatever it needs to fix it. They're not customers, they're clients. All right. This is a relationship we're building, because what that's going to end up doing is if you're on the phone with somebody for 30 minutes and you fix their problem, that customer is never going, or that client, right? The customer becomes a client. They're never going anywhere. And then what do? You got to call this company. Now that's a referral. That's number 2 on the list of golden, customers or clients is a referral. Number 1 is an introduction. Nice. So, hey, Jim, Sam down the street does a great job with the lawn. Let him cut your grass. Here, give Sam a call. That's a referral. Hey, Sam, you got to meet Jim. Jim, this is Sam. Tell him about your problem, because this guy's good. That's an introduction. That's the golden standard. But see how they're all related, They're all interrelated. And when you're a solopreneur, better be good at all of it. If you're bad at any one of those, your company will fail. I've lost many companies. Many companies. I told you on our little pre-interview, I just sold a company. The purpose of a business, the start of a business, in my opinion, there's only one reason to start a business. That's to sell a business. We just sold a business, multi-million deal across the United States. Our construction company, it's a telecommunication. Sold that company recently. They've asked me to stay on for 1 year. I was a minority partner. Very minority, but they were very generous in the distribution. I'm going to stay on for a year. I was only with the company technically for 3 years, really in-house, just 2 years. But when I was in negotiations with the sales folks, they said, you've been with the company for 2 years. You're doing pretty good. And I said, no. I've been in this business for 30 years. And the reason the last 2 years were good was because of that last 28. So you can't discount my last 28 just because I was only, I had an employee name here for 2. It all goes to the value of what we've made this today. And so because I'm the CEO, right? My title says Executive Vice President of Operations, but that's not how I operate the business. Every expenditure, every encounter, every time my guys drive down the road and they have the sign on their truck, that's marketing, So I really look at all that stuff as an owner, and I encourage my ditch diggers. I still have pit diggers and warehousemen, runners. You're a CEO. What if this was your money? What if you didn't get a paycheck this week because we were late on a job? Because we're not getting paid. So what happens? Look at it that way and get some empathy for the company instead of what can the company do for me? And I really train my guys with having that. It's a culture, and it comes down to that. So when that business sold, it allowed me now to help for the rest of my life. I never have to. I get to.
Nice.
And so even though I get to, the last 2 years, I've always had that mentality anyway. Jocko Willink has a company, has a show called Good. It's a little podcast.
Nice. Can you elaborate a bit how you create this sense of ownership within your employees? Because I think that if you come to them and say, okay, guys, if you're not performing, we're not earning money, it might sound harsh. Obviously, it depends on the recruitment. You got to recruit from the beginning. You want to recruit people that are like warriors. But on the other hand, how do you create this?
Well, I love you use the term warrior, because one of the things I do teach is that to be a warrior, you have to practice like a warrior, because you're never going to be ready to fight like a warrior if you don't practice every day like a warrior. So I have this whole mantra about morning routines and all that. But to your point of the employees, the number one way to show them how to be an owner in their mind is to be an example that I'm an owner in my mind. All right. I show them. I've done, luckily, 30 years. I've been in every department of the industry. I've worked as a contractor. I've worked as an in-house employee for Comcast. I rose to the rank, one of the youngest managers in Comcast history, running a $40 million upgrade in the South Florida Keys market back when I was only 32 years old. That ran for 8 years, became a contractor again, but a business owner this time. And so I've done it, both sides of the fence, all the departments, dispatch and fiber splicing, climbing the poles, install, service, digging pits. I was on a sales team, right, calling people to sell the stuff for a couple of years. So there's nothing I would never ask someone to do that I haven't done or can do. Now, I can't do it proficiently and I can't do it efficiently, and I would never want to do it permanently, but I can do it. And I show them what you get if you do it with gusto, with ownership, with the heart of an owner. You're going to get where I am, because where I come from, nobody wants to be there. And funny thing is, a lot of people are there who I grew up with, and they think they want to be there. But if they just knew the 6 inches between their ears is holding them back from so much, they would never want to be there if they just could look at it a little differently. And maybe I'm blessed that I had that change. Light came on very late, 20 years old. Better than 40, better than 80.
Sure. You mentioned the morning routine, and these days I'm kind of looking for maybe something more interesting in my morning routine, because I've tested a lot and I played with it for a while. But to be honest, I've did like a bodybuilding competition a few months ago, and this drained all my self-discipline. And since then, I'm still recovering. I'm wondering, what is your morning routine?
Well, because I have ADHD, that morning routine is not a routine whatsoever in the long scope of things, but it is action every morning, right? So it's never going to be the same thing for a year, but it is something. To your point, you went extreme. And so moderation is the key to everything in life. I lost 60 pounds a couple of years ago, and I managed to keep it off because I learned the power of moderation, because food was my weakness. Everyone's got a weakness. Food was mine, and my weakness was strong. And I was stressed, and I was right there. Imagine being a crackhead, right? And every corner there's a crack store, right? My crack store was Burger King, Taco Bell, and McDonald's, and it was really easy to get and legal. For many years, I was obese. I was fat, 280 pounds, 300, almost 300 pounds at one time. So I lost 60 down to 220. And I brought it back up about 230, 230. That's my happy weight. That's where I started that routine. Right. 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, how long it's been now. You wake up, try not to look at your phone first thing. First thing you do, I'm married and my wife doesn't wake up at the same time as me. I wake up very early, about 3 o'clock in the morning every day. But if you don't have someone in bed with you, make your bed. That's the first thing. There's a video called "If You Want to Change the World, Start Off by Making Your Bed." Right. Great video. You get a task done. You feel good. If you had a bad day, you come home to a made bed. Okay. So when I get up, I vigorously brush my teeth, because what that does is it gets the blood going. I mean, literally, I don't have to run 5 miles. If I'm in there brushing my teeth, moving around and walking around and pacing, your blood's going. Now I come down, gulp a big glass of water, get that out of the way, because I hate that, but you have to do it. Then it's a journal. I try to, I'm bad at it. I'm not consistent, but ideally, I have a book right here. It's my journal book. It's my little red thankful book. It's my gratitude journal. And I just try to write something I'm thankful for. Because now I'm in the mindset, right? I'm in the state. I'm state of giving, state of appreciation. Then I go start making my phone calls, and I'm usually somewhere else all the time. So crews all over the country. We're decentralized management. So I have calls to make, that routine. They're used to hearing from me. They know I'm going to be calling at some point. They know what questions I'm going to ask. And then working out is something that's really hard for me because I hate it. So we joined, I was a martial artist as a kid. I fought a lot as a kid, and I was a martial artist as a young adult. We have a jiu-jitsu, place here. My whole family, a couple of my kids do it, but I'm not here enough to really do it consistently. But I'd rather fight, roll, do some karate, some sparring, boxing, rather than pump and iron. They're too heavy. I find the weights are very heavy.
Depends which you choose. But do you set your alarm clock to 3 o'clock, or you just wake up?
To wake up, yeah.
So when do you
I don't
go
go
to
to sleep in about 12. It's not healthy. I wish I could change it, but it's been that way for years and years. Yeah, years and years, 10 years or so. It's not good. It's my anxiety. It's my, that's just how I deal. But
do you also de-stress before you go to sleep, or do you try to...
No, I'm not stressed. I understand what a circle of control is. I have anxiety of control issues, people around the country impacting my success. I think about things. I have, we have 4 businesses, SelfEsteem is a real estate investment and real estate retail selling homes. My wife really runs that. She's the captain of that business. We have a landscape business. My son's 20 years old. We have 250 customers, 5 employees, 300,000 revenue. There's always an invoice I got to do. There's always some marketing I do. But Garrett does all the heavy lifting. He's got the energy to work outside. I run the construction company. So we do $40 to $50 million a year. So there's always something that I can drill down on.
Yeah.
And then this new business with Torisk Pro Advisors, where I'm trying to make content. I'm trying to brand myself again. I'm trying to learn how to use MailChimp. I'm trying to, learn how to do a newsletter. And I mean, it's just always something. So for me, it's anxiety. I don't like to take medications for that.
For sure.
So I don't. I should.
I also feel like a lot of time, like my mind is bombarded, and I started doing like an accountability practice with my friend. So every day we just send a to-do list to each other in WhatsApp. I don't even look what he sends, but just planning the day like beforehand it clears the mind. It makes me so much more relaxed. So I love that.
Accountability partner for the to-do list. That one's a good one. I always have my things.
And it works better. I tried it with my wife, but we give each other an easy life. So with the friend, it works much better.
This is great because I don't understand about accountability partners, and you want to set goals and you want to have them hold you accountable. But for something like as mundane as your task list and your to-do list and maybe your very short-term goals, I never thought about that short of a span for accountability partners. So thank you for that one, because I'm going to use that one.
Sure.
But accountability is important.
Yeah, I love journaling, and I wanted to ask you regarding the book actually. So did you feel it was like therapeutic in a way? Because you mentioned it was like some sort of a catharsis, but can you elaborate a bit about this?
This is the tip of the iceberg. Okay, there is a lot of shit underneath there. This book has such a small fraction of what I've been through, the stories I have, the experience I've been through, the failure, the bad decisions, the craziness, the fun stuff. This book was geared toward my mentorship of junior achievement kids. So I kind of made it PG-13-ish, really showed some stuff. I was vulnerable, but there's some stuff behind there. So when I was doing it, I'm forgetting more. I turn 50 next month, May 28th. I'm starting to forget these stories. I have a very small circle of friends. One of my friends I've known, there's one picture in the book. It's from me when I was 17. I was homeless. Basically, I left my house. I was sleeping on his couch. I still am friends with him today. He works for the company that we just sold. He's one of my traveling PM project managers. Whenever I'm in town, I was in Virginia last week where he's running a project, and he and I went out and got a bottle of Macallan's, and we just talked about so many things. I had forgotten so much, but I don't do that with hardly anyone else. I just started writing down like memories. That's kind of how I started. And yeah, it was good because I think they're funny.
Quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time now, we would really appreciate it if you could take the time to give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcast app may be. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms. And it also supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to become better marketers and better entrepreneurs. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be dangerous, pause this thing right now and give us an honest review over your podcast app, and we will love you even more than we already do. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
I had low self-esteem, and now my self-esteem is very high because of everything I've accomplished, and I realize it doesn't matter what other people think, but again, that took a long time. So writing them down, I think they're funny, where before I was ashamed. So I don't know if that really answered your questions, but yeah, it was therapeutic, but there's a lot more. The second edition of this thing, when I get time one day, will be written for the adults.
What are some limiting beliefs that you think you had and you overcame?
So when I was growing up, because my house was always party central, I had a sister who was 18 months older, but she was deaf. I had a little brother who was 7 years younger, but my parents were alcoholics and drug addicts. So I was the patriarch of my family from a very young age, 7, 8, 9 years old. I just had a lot of responsibility, didn't really live. And my dad's side of the family were Polish and Italian, and they were very strict. They're not strict, it's hard. They talked to you hard. And as a kid, I was very clumsy. there was 22 of us that would get together for Sunday dinner in a 2-bedroom duplex. So I'm tripping over someone's ankle. Whatever, those plastic runners that used to run across the carpet. I trip over that. And now you got 5 adults yelling, "What are you doing?" You spill a drink. And so the constant bombarding of being told you're stupid, you're clumsy. That's me. I said, Jeremy. On top of that, my parents never were very ambitious. They were hardworking, truck driver and waitress, but they weren't ambitious. That's all they wanted to do was get off the clock and tip one back. Where my advice from them was get a D in high school and middle school. And now just get a D. They can't kick you out if you're getting a D. They've got to pass you. So I had no ambition. I had people telling me I was stupid. I had a lot of rage because no self-esteem. I fought every single day from 3rd grade till I was like 17, 18, 19 years old. Literally, I fought almost every day. When I found out, and I'll give you a little trick of the book. I found out everyone used to tell me I should be a lawyer. The way I talked, and I never did the drugs and drinking back then. So I used to fight. So I used to play with people's minds just to before we fought. And they used to say, you should be a lawyer. There's some, the way you talk, the way you do that. And I'm going, I can't even read, right? It's like someone telling me because I fought so much that I should fight Mike Tyson, right? That's not possible. That doesn't mean the same thing. Anyway, fast forward, I'm 20 years old. I've been on my own for a couple of years. I'm working at a machine shop, making $300 a week, living in somebody's garage, basically. I go to my sister's wedding. My sister gets married. My dad and my mom had split. The whole family fell apart a couple of years before. My dad shows up to the wedding with his new wife. He tells my grandmother, she's the new wife, she's complaining. I get home from the wedding. My grandmother calls me. She's blotto, right? Drunk, not thinking straight. You should have heard Joanne. She was there telling everyone about how they didn't have to be there because Ronnie, who's my father, wasn't even my sister or my father. Mind blown. Because when I was a kid, my sister used to tell me when we go to sleep at night that our father is not our father because she's deaf. She has a different perspective. And she used to, the adults would talk differently in front of her because she was deaf. I think she always picked up on that. And I didn't believe her. I'd never thought of it. It blew my mind. I was literally transported back to 8 years old in bed talking to my sister about that. So I pushed and I made all the calls and told people, listen, the cat's out of the bag. But I was relieved because those people, I felt like they didn't like me. So now I wasn't related to them. All right, I got a little bit of room now to work in. At the time, I was digging ditches for the cable company, and I just was happy about it. I was just happy. My mood was different. I don't know. I just felt like there was some opportunity. Well, when I started pushing the buttons and pulling the levers to find out who my real dad was, it took 2 years, and there's no internet back then. Long story short, I got a phone number eventually to the guy. Didn't live in my state, lived far away. I called him at work, and the lady answered that said, law firm. My father was a lawyer. My biological father was a lawyer. I wasn't stupid. I had DNA of a lawyer in me. I was smart. And the whole light, every day was different from then.
Wow.
Confident, shoulders back, digging a little different, doing stuff. Can you do this? Yes, I can do that. I don't know how to do it, but I say yes. And I call someone, hey, how do you do this? And I got promoted every 8 months, bam, bam, bam. And I've never, ever been in a position for more than 8 months since 22 years old without being promoted or giving extreme amounts of responsibilities, given big projects. And, and get to a certain level, you can't be promoted anymore. But the projects and the discussions, the negotiations that you're entrusted with, it's never gone down. I've had a lot of failures, lost companies, bankruptcies. 10 years ago, I was bankruptcies. 10 years ago, I was broke, destitute. I have 2 commas in my checking account today in 10 years because that light went on when I was bankrupt 10 years ago. I was still happy. I didn't care. I have no money. It wasn't my fault. Literally, I was bankrupt a little bit because I didn't diversify the business, but the housing market crashed. But I had been successful. I can be successful. I know the combination. I know which door to knock on. And I don't really knock. I'm the kind of person, all right, kicking that door down, right? Kicking it down. You can keep me out. And so that's what happened. That's how that shame came on her.
That's an amazing roller coaster story. What advice do you give to the junior high kids? Because you had like the aha moment. You realize, okay, I've got the DNA of a lawyer, but how can they create this aha moment in themselves if they don't have like this notification announcement?
Sure. Yeah, very easily. I never met the man. I talked to him on the phone that day for about 5 minutes. He acknowledged that, yes, he knew my mom, blah, 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 blah. Never met the man. I didn't have Napoleon's book, and Stephen Covey's book, where they say what I did. They say it right there, Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's what I did. But I didn't read any of that. When I read it later, I was like, oh, so because I just thought it, I did these things. I went from a negative, reactive mind to a proactive mind. Never did someone have to say, this needs done. I would just do it before they would ask me. Or they would say, I'm thinking this might need to be done. All right, let's think of a way we can do it. It's proactive. I tell kids, the biggest problem, even when I was a kid and my aunts used to yell at me and I used to get into fights, the problems were in my mind. My aunts didn't hate me. My aunts probably didn't think I was stupid. I was just so damaged myself that I perceived it. And once I changed my thought process, I succeeded. And so I held myself back. It's on you. If you believe the things that you are in your life, because they're not real, you can't touch it. It's not real, right? If someone's treating you badly, you're allowing them to treat you badly. If someone's making you mad, no, you can't be made mad. You're allowing them to make you mad. One of the best pieces of advice I got from YouTube is this guy from Israel is how he doesn't get mad is he looks at people who are being obnoxious or being out of line, being rude with pity. It's hard to hate somebody when you pity them. And that really goes, wow, I try to think of that. Right. So I go, no, it doesn't work 90% of the time, but 10%, it might have saved my life. Literally, I still live in a very dangerous world. We all do. And so you piss off the wrong person and you don't know what could happen. So, but I try to think of that. He's right. It's a thing. It's in here. It can't make you mad.
This is actually a very old Stoic principle. I love reading Stoic philosophy. And actually, as I told you before, we went on the call. So me and my wife, we traveled the world and we only have one suitcase each. But wherever we go, we take 3 books that are Stoic philosophy books, wherever we go, because this is very important for us. And one of the most important Stoic principles is the fact that anything that happens, it doesn't really matter. It all depends how you interpret the thing. So whatever happens, you can choose if you get angry or if you get motivated or how you react. So this is
that's right. Yeah.
Very important.
David Goggins has a lot of stuff on that where he takes things that motivate him. Who was I just watched? Michael Jordan. You take the smallest little thing and it would inspire him to win championships because the guy looked at him wrong. He's like, oh, and he blew it up in his mind because he knew that was his fuel. So sometimes you take that and make it work for you, but usually you take that and it works against you 99% of the time. We're not all Michael Jordans, but guess what? We can be. That's the beautiful thing. It's limitless. Our goal is what I tell my kids, make your goal and then multiply it by 1 million. Literally. I want to make $10 million, $1 billion. Are there billionaires? Yes. $1 billion. Why aren't you going for $1 billion? Are there trillionaire people yet? No, but there is going to be very soon. Why don't you be the first trillionaire? Because everything can be broken down to the small little steps. But if you shoot for $1 million, what do you do when you reach it? Right. The problem with people setting goals that are not the problem. The problem with people setting goals too often is that they reach them. They're not set high enough to fail. Failure is something that's just training for success.
Failure is demonized, even though it depends how you interpret it. It's not failure. It's a win or learn. It's like just a stepping stone.
That's right. It's like, all right. It's all right. It's a lesson. We call it dumb tax too. I learned that from a Tony Robbins seminar. One of his guys called it a dumb tax. I paid a lot of dumb tax in my life.
Awesome. Can you share a bit about the mindset that you had after you were bankrupt?
I love telling this story. I worked at the time 20 years, let's say, in my industry, and I started my own business doing the putting cable in for new homes, and the homes all shut down 3 weeks before Christmas in 2009 because the new build, the housing market crashed and no one was buying the homes, so they all shut down. I had 19 employees, 5 trucks. I was owed about $60,000. I had about $60,000 in my bank account, so about $120,000 swing right there to play with. I owned a house that was $300,000. I didn't own it. I lived in a house that I owed $300,000. I had about $200,000 worth of equipment that I financed. And when it crashed, A, I didn't get paid. B, I felt that it was going to come back. No, we've never been through this in this country. So how long could it possibly last for? So I tried to keep my employees. I paid him for 3 months, which is a huge mistake. That $60,000 was gone. I couldn't pay for the house. I had to go bankrupt about a year. Luckily, thank God, at that time, you didn't get kicked out of your house in 3 days or 3 months. It was a long time. They were so back. I lived in this house basically for free. I made arrangements to make smaller payments, and I did, but it was futile for a year.
Wow.
I didn't have a job. I didn't graduate high school. I quit high school in 10th grade because I left the house. And I don't have a high school diploma. I had a GED, which is a test you take. Mm-hmm. It's useless. I didn't go to college until way later. I went and took some classes for Comcast, but business management, business writing, public speaking, things that would help me get promoted. So I don't have a college degree. I'm 40 years old. I had a broken leg. I'm a Floridian, so I'm wearing shorts, right? I got business up top, right? Party down below. I got this scar you can see here, maybe. Broke my knee bad. I mean, it was a radial fracture. Everything inside was torn up. Playing football with my kids, 12 years old kids. I'm on a couch, can't walk, can't work, no degree, no income, no money. I needed health insurance for my kids. I started selling health insurance a little bit from a computer. I needed health insurance, but you couldn't get it because I was self-employed selling health insurance, ironically enough, right? I just tried to do something. So I went to work for this company. I was on crutches and everything. Remember I told you I did marketing, answering telephones. And they sold cable. They sold Verizon. They sold Comcast. They looked for, there was marketing and they made calls. They got calls. Well, I went in there and the job was an answering telephone job for commission, maybe $30,000 a year. I asked for $200,000 a year to run a business that I have zero idea of. And they were like, yeah, that ain't happening. But my story, my background, my experience, they were like, I think we could do something here. How about $45,000, which is the top for that department? I was like, health insurance? Yes, you got it. Let's just start. So I went from huge $250,000 a year, whatever, to 45 just for health insurance. In one day, my first day on the job, I was promoted to supervisor. Wow. Because I never did sales. I just knew people. Because when you're from the streets, you know people. And the way I talk to them, it resonated with the supervisor, with the manager. And he's like, pull me aside, you're in charge. Everyone's in charge. I was going to be the supervisor anyway, but it was supposed to be training for a couple of weeks. He's like, no, throw the script away. You teach these people what you just did. And I didn't even make the sale, by the way. Nice. But he saw, he's like, wow. You're connecting with people. That's what sales is. So I trained these people and they tripled sales in like 2 months. We grew the department. I got promoted again 8 months later to manager. And 8 months later, I got promoted to director. And I was operating Jamaica and South Florida and traveling back and forth. And this girl walked in. And at the time, I was like $60,000. So imagine, I'm still wildly in debt and about to be homeless. I can't even rent a house for 60. Believe it or not, I couldn't even rent a house. I owed child support. I was debt, but I had this. I go into this room. I was an executive kind of, and they brought this girl in to cut people's hair for the executives. It was a perk. And I walk in and she's cutting my hair and I'm just talking with her. And she could tell I'm not one of the big wigs, I'm the low man on the big wig totem pole now, but we connected, we clicked, we go out, we dated and everything. Turns out I ended up marrying her. But at the time, if I would have had my old mindset before I found out, before I was 20 years old, when I was 17, when I was fighting every day, I'd have been like, I can't believe I'm at this call center, man. We're making phone calls. I mean, how bad is this? Look, I owe this money. I can't even pay for this. Literally, I would have melted down. But instead, because I'm succeeding, because the wheels are moving, because I know that this was just a step, I went in that bathroom, was the executive bathroom, and she cut my hair and she fell in love with me that day. And she knew, she kind of could tell I wasn't a guy with money, but she just loved something about me. And that would have never happened without this mindset, even though it was the lowest place of my adult professional life, really. But you can't keep me down. David Goggins. I love David Goggins. So talk about a guy who's been through a lot of failure and stuff. He's got this thing where he goes to heaven, whatever your heaven is. And there's a board behind God saying, ran 100-mile races, 10 of them in a month, and U.S. Navy SEAL and Air Force badass, all this stuff. And he's like, what is that? Well, that's what I meant you to do when I put you on the earth. And if he had never changed his life, he was killing cockroaches and he was 350 pounds. And he would have been like, no, that's not me. I'm the guy who kills roaches.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, that's what you were supposed to do. You just didn't do it. It was in you. So for me, I know my future's already done. And when I hear this little voice in my head saying, I should try that, for me, that's God. Whatever God is, that's God talking to me. That's telling me you should do it. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to succeed at it. It means I'm going to learn something by trying it. You get this other voice going, don't do it, don't do it. But that also might be God. So it's not a fail-proof system to listen to the thoughts in your head. But I believe if you know your success is already there, and whatever your God is, puts you on this world to be something that you can't even imagine, setting those high goals. Nothing that happens on the way is going to keep you that down, because you know you can do it, especially if you get a couple of successes under your belt. Start off small. Hang around with people who tell you, good job. That was really important to me when I was a kid, being told, good job. Really, it kept me alive probably. One other really small thing about that is, and I kind of lost my track already, but it was going to be good about the kids and keeping your mindset the right way, not listening to other people. I kind of lost it because of that good job. It took me back. I got emotional really, because I had a very tough childhood. So when I think about it that close, I really do get, you can't keep somebody down who believes themselves.
Mm-hmm. I also love David Goggins stuff, and you mentioned Jocko Willink a lot. So extreme ownership is a very important. I try to live by. I have like 6 principles that I try to live by, and I memorize them every morning. And the newly added like 2 years ago was extreme ownership. It was like the last one that was added, and it changes your whole perspective about how you convey yourself and how you live in the world. So
this book was written in 1960. Mm-hmm. It preceded extreme ownership by 50 years, 60 years. If you get it, it is extreme ownership. The writer is called General Bruce Clark, but it's a book that Jocko read on his show, but it took him like 20 years to find this book. He didn't read it before he wrote Extreme Ownership, but when he got it and finally read it, he was like, this is extreme ownership. It's amazing. So I went on Amazon, I put my name on the list. It took about a year to get it. If I just showed up 2 days ago. And I'm starting to read it, and it's so cool. It's about a general. So extreme ownership, the principles, Jocko will tell you. It's like he didn't know, but he did it. I didn't know about Stephen Covey's habits, but I did it. When you just believe and you get a little self-confidence, and more importantly, a little self-esteem, because they don't go together. You can have confidence and low self-esteem, but when that self-esteem gets going and you get a little confidence, man, it's unstoppable.
Can you clarify a bit? I'm not sure I completely understand the difference between confidence and self-esteem.
Oh, God, that's an easy one. Okay, here's what it is. Self-confidence is a measurable unit of belief in your skills. I played the drums since I was 4 years old. My father was a drummer. I grew up in bars, literally between the sets. They would put me to sleep in the pillow and the bass drum between the sets. But he never showed me anything. I self-taught. I played the drums. I became a professional drummer as an adult. I played around the South Florida, around the country, Nashville. So as a kid, that was my core talent, my confidence. And I could fight very well. And the reason I couldn't fight very well is because I never got hit first. So maybe I couldn't fight that good, but I always hit someone so quickly that I had the upper hand. Right? I was a fighter and I was a drummer. That was my identity. And it was measurable because I won most of my fights. I fought almost every day. And I played the drums very well. People would come to my house. The girls would come over, watch me play the drums. So that was confidence. But at the same time, self-esteem is a belief. It's not a measurable unit of your worth. Why was I fighting so much? Why did I need the girls to come watch me play? Because I had zero self-worth. My self-esteem was in the garbage. Nobody in my family would admit or tell me that, I play the drums well. Nobody would say he's fighting because he cares about something. They would say he's fighting because he's angry. He's fighting because he's a hothead. He's fighting because that's just Jeremy. He's stupid. That's why he gets bad grades. So it's way different things. So it's kind of hardwired when you're young. The problem with that is when you're young, you can't control your environment until you're about 7 or 8 years old. But the good news is you can undo it. And how you undo it is disciplined action every day of getting rid of the people. And that's what I was going to say. Actually, there you go about the kids. Get away from the people who aren't congratulating you. Get away from the people who aren't saying you're doing a good job. Get away from anyone who says you can't do it. You got like picture yourself with your goal of success and you're here. And then everyone in front of you is your family, your friends, the world, people who are in the position that you want to be in, kind of, who are not like you. They're all there with hockey sticks and the gloves and the mask and their goalies holding you back. Get those people out of your way. All you got to do is close your eyes and you walk right through them. You don't listen to them. They don't exist. So the same thing with my self-esteem is once I found out that I was smart, I could be smart. It's the action I took. I lost all my friends. I got rid of them all, except for that one I told you about. I talk to people I know, but I'm not friends with them. I don't hang out with them. I lost them all. That was the biggest thing. The second thing is when you take action every day, content and what you hear and consume is just as dangerous as too much food, too much red meat, too much ice cream. So you change your content and your diet of content. So you start reading maybe, and I didn't have any of that, but I just worked, and I got promotions. So that was my content, listening to people who knew what they were doing and following them. Now I tell a kid, oh my God, if you can't be happy with YouTube, a podcast, and the choices can go on for years. You can never leave your room and not listen to anything negative for 5 years. You need some bigger help than just your mindset. You got psychological problems. So you control what you consume on your diet of content and music. Anyway, I can go really on, but there's a huge difference. If it wasn't a difference, Robin Williams, who does one of the hardest thing on earth, going up there with a microphone, being one of the funniest men on earth, you don't think he was confident? He killed himself because his self-worth was so low. He had problems with his self-esteem and other issues with some. So a mental issue, but it's really not created equally or connected even.
There is so much content out there, free content, but on the other hand, I like the ways that you said this should be like as regarded as a diet, because even overconsumption of content is also a way of procrastinating. So you must be mindful of this.
That's right. It's not action. It's preparatory.
Exactly.
Football guy on the field throwing a touchdown, that's action. Running the drills out there, that's action. Exactly. Looking at the plays of the last week's game, that's not action. That's preparatory. So you're right. You're right on the money right there.
Exactly. And I have a framework that I use. I think I don't remember who I took it from, but it's just in time, in opposing to just in case. So you learn something just in time, not just in case you'll need it. Because
that's great.
Now I learn like automation stuff, and my wife, she told me, but is it relevant at the moment or you're just enjoying it? And then I was, you're right. Let's stop with this.
There is a saying, if you have to do something every day, you should automate it. If you can't automate it, delegate it. If you cannot delegate it, eliminate it. You shouldn't have to be tethered to an action that you have to do every single day. You'll never move on. You'll never grow your business if you don't do that. You'll be working in your business and not on your business. Exactly. So there is a place for that for sure.
Awesome, Jeremy. It was so much fun and very insightful, and I really appreciate your authenticity, and you shared also the hardships and not only what a lot of people share, only the successes, and it's never as easy as it seems, and it's never like overnight success, so it's all bullshit. So I'm happy.
Yeah, I told you we sold that company, so overnight I'm a success because literally I'm a millionaire. I'm happy. I'm proud of that, and it was overnight. 40 years in the making. So 40 years later, I'm a millionaire overnight. That's how it happened. So it doesn't really, it does go together. I want to thank you for having me on and for your guidance, for your questions. You're a great interviewer. I appreciate the stories that we were able to share. And I really do have the only goal for the rest of my life is to help as many people as I can help with these stories of good, bad, and ugly, and hopefully a little bit funny too. So I hope that your audience enjoyed our time.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure they did. And I want to ask just another concluding question. This is something that I took from the Tim Ferriss podcast, which I highly, I really like. He has great guests and they expand your mind and also give me something to strive for because he bring like the top performers. And one of the closing questions that he asks is, what would you write on a huge billboard? So if you could conclude all your life lessons and encapsulate them only in one line, what would you write?
Act at the speed of instruction. Don't procrastinate. Something has to happen, do it. Someone tells you need to do something, do it. You get an email that somebody needs some information, respond to it. Don't put it off. If you act at the speed of instruction, you're never going to be far behind. Don't let yourself build up on you. I live by that mantra that's why I'm up at 3:00 in the morning, because I wake up and I go, I got this to do. Let's go do it. I'm instructing myself. That's what a big thing for me.
Wow. I need to think about it, because I feel it's very powerful, because I've had a backlog of tasks I created in the past, but this mantra might be very helpful, because
there's a book called Eat the Frog, do the hard things first.
Exactly.
I'll tell you, I do have an offer for your folks.
Cool.
My book, I wrote it for me, and I figured it might help people. I told you I sold my company, and I don't need money right now. I'm so blessed. I want this book to be in the people's hands. The e-version on Amazon is 99 cents.
Nice.
That's the lowest I could possibly have it. That's the lowest they'll let me have it. I make 30 cents a book. Mm-hmm. If you go to Amazon and you look up my name, Torisk, Jeremy Torisk, so not many of us, or Labor to Leadership, you can get this ebook for 99 cents. Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you read it in the back, my email address is on there. I would love to do a virtual coffee with any of your audience members. Cool. They'll go to my website, put in their information. We'll hook up on a 30-minute virtual Zoom call, and I'll answer questions for them for 30 minutes. And I'm not looking to do any sales. Mm-hmm. Zero sales. My advisory business is not for sale. I can't do it for another year. I just want to help people and answer questions, or connect with some good folks, and maybe get some good, meet some great people that we can beneficially help each other, support each other. So
awesome.
That's the offer that I will make to you and your audience.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time, and for sure, I think it's a no-brainer for people, and they should hop on the call and also obviously buy the book. It's obviously a no-brainer. So thank you so much. It's been
thank you very much.
Bye. Take care. Hi guys, this is Yaron again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number 1, if you want to learn more about e-commerce and marketing, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, which is called EcomXFactor Official. Number 2, check out our Facebook group, which is called EcomXFactor Marketing and E-commerce Mastermind. This is a great place to ask questions and connect with other business owners. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues, plus leave a review at your favorite podcast app.